dream of darkness and a summer in between. Harry Potter is spending another summer at number 4, Privet Drive, with the Dursleys. Their house is neat, controlled, and suffocatingly ordinary. There are no owls tapping on windowsills here, no moving photographs of witches and wizards laughing together, no whispering portraits in the hallway. Just the television murmuring in the other room, the clink of cutlery at dinner, and the feeling that this house will never really be home. But something is different this year. Harry has had a dream. It is sharper than most dreams, so vivid that he wakes with his scar burning. In it, he has seen a dark, abandoned house. Inside, a small, shrunken man named Wormtail, and something far worse than him. A presence that is not quite human, pale and snake-like, cold and cruel. He hears them speaking of plans, of a faithful servant at Hogwarts, of a grand event that will soon bring Harry into their reach. And then there is a flash of green light, and Harry wakes, heart pounding, scar aching. It feels less like a dream and more like a warning. The Dursleys have no interest in his nightmares or his scar. To them, Harry is still just a burden they would rather forget. He is careful not to mention anything about magic. He does his homework in secret, hides his wand and books, and tries not to provoke Uncle Vernon or Aunt Petunia. Even so, the tension in the house never really goes away. Then something interrupts the dull rhythm of summer. Harry receives letters and news from his real world, the one that exists beyond Privet Drive. Ron Weasley writes to say that his family has won a prize in the Daily Prophet and gone to visit his brother Bill in Egypt, and later that they have been invited to the Quidditch World Cup. Hermione writes too, keeping him connected to school and friends. These letters are like small windows opening in the walls of his room, reminders that Hogwarts and everything it means are still out there, waiting. Soon, a more concrete promise arrives. The Weasleys have invited Harry to join them for the Quidditch World Cup, one of the biggest sporting events in the wizarding world. Uncle Vernon is reluctant, as always, but the mixture of wizard gold, a hint of pressure, and the threat that Harry will just contact his godfather Sirius Black if they say no finally pushes him into a grudging agreement. When the Weasleys arrive at Privet Drive, the calm facade of the Dursley house does not last long. Mr. Weasley, Fred, George, and Ron try to use the fireplace to collect Harry, only to discover it is blocked by an electric fire. After some chaos and soot and shattered plaster, Harry is finally pulled out into the wizarding world once more. The Dursleys are left in shock as Harry disappears with his odd, noisy, unmistakably magical guests. For Harry, it is like breathing properly for the first time all summer. He arrives at the burrow, the Weasleys' home, and everything there feels wonderfully alive. The house is crooked and crowded, full of clattering pans, magical objects, and friendly voices. Mrs. Weasley fusses. Ginny smiles shyly. Percy is officious and serious, working in his new job at the ministry. Fred and George joke, plot, and test out suspiciously explosive sweets. The family is loud, imperfect, and completely welcoming. This is where Harry feels wanted. Soon, the trip to the Quidditch World Cup begins. Getting to the Quidditch World Cup is an adventure in itself. Harry, Hermione, and several members of the Weasley family are up before dawn. They walk through misty fields before sunrise, carrying tents and supplies. Instead of cars or buses, their transport is a portkey, an ordinary-looking old boot that has been turned into a magical object. At the right moment, when enough people are touching it, it whisks them away from the quiet English countryside. The sensation is like being hooked behind the navel and pulled forward. When they land, they tumble onto a hillside among many other witches and wizards from all over the country and beyond. The Quidditch World Cup campsite is a chaotic, fascinating place. Tents are disguised to look normal from a distance, but up close, they are clearly magical, with impossibly large interiors, chandeliers, and plush furniture. People wear robes, odd combinations of Muggle clothes, and proudly display banners supporting their teams. Harry sees how huge and varied the wizarding world really is. Ministry workers rush about trying to keep everything orderly and as discreet as possible. Foreign accents drift through the air. Vendors sell odd magical snacks and souvenirs. Everything is noisy, colorful, and alive. The match itself is between Ireland and Bulgaria, and the atmosphere in the stadium is overwhelming. Massive stands tower into the sky, every seat filled. The mascots for each team put on dazzling displays. There is music, cheering, and the constant motion of broomsticks as the players zoom through the air at incredible speeds. Harry watches famous players he has only heard about, including the Bulgarian seeker Victor Krum, who is young, intense, and fiercely skilled. The game is fast and complicated, but even someone who has never seen Quidditch before could sense the excitement. Ireland wins the match on points, but Krum catches the snitch, ending the game in a way that allows both skill and strategy to shine. Fireworks blaze across the sky. The Irish supporters celebrate wildly, and the stadium glows with green and gold. It should have been a perfect night. Back at the campsite, celebrations continue late into the darkness. Harry, Ron, and Hermione drift in and out of sleep, listening to distant singing and laughter. Then, in the middle of the night, something changes. Screams and shouts tear through the campsite. People are running, panicked, their silhouettes outlined by fires and wand light. Harry, Ron, and Hermione rush outside to see masked figures in robes moving through the camp. These are Death Eaters, followers of Voldemort, though many at the event have not seen them in years. They levitate Muggles into the air, including the campsite manager and his family, tormenting them for amusement. The scene is chaotic and frightening. Ministry officials race to intervene. Parents try to shield their children. The sky is filled with spells, lights, and smoke. In the confusion, Harry is separated from the Weasleys. He, Ron, and Hermione flee into the woods at the edge of the campsite. There, they encounter frightened witches and wizards, some angry, some terrified, some confused. In the darkness, someone stuns a man named Winky the house elf, a servant of Barty Crouch. Harry realizes his wand is missing. Then a single spell cuts through the night. A huge skull with a serpent emerging from its mouth appears in the sky, made of emerald green light. It is the Dark Mark, the sign of Voldemort. Many older witches and wizards react with horror to them. It is a symbol of a time they hoped never to see again. Ministry officials race to the scene of the spell. They find Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Winky nearby. There is confusion and suspicion as they try to determine who cast the Dark Mark, who stunned the elf, and what exactly has happened. Mr. Crouch is furious with Winky. Mr. Weasley is shaken. No one has clear answers. By morning, the fires are being put out, and the campsite is a mess. Many families are packing up and leaving early. The fun and excitement of the World Cup have been replaced by unease, fear, and whispered questions. Someone has chosen this night to remind the world that Voldemort's symbol still exists. For Harry, the dream of Voldemort and the pain in his scar feel more ominous than ever. Life does not pause for confusion. The new school year is approaching. Harry, Ron, and Hermione return to the burrow with the Weasleys. The incident at the World Cup becomes the subject of worried adult conversations. Arthur Weasley and other ministry employees are criticized in the newspapers, especially by journalist Rita Skeeter, who writes colorful and often unfair articles. Soon, it is time to go back to Hogwarts. On the Hogwarts Express, the familiar red steam engine that carries students to school, the three friends settle into a compartment. The journey is as comforting as ever. Sweets from the trolley, glimpses of the countryside, and the sense that they are moving steadily toward the place that feels most like home. There's also gossip, of course. Students talk about the World Cup, the Dark Mark, and rumors that something unusual will happen at Hogwarts this year. No one seems to know exactly what, but the whispers add a pleasant tingle of anticipation. When they arrive at Hogwarts, the castle is as magnificent as always, lit with torches and filled with the voices of hundreds of students. The start of term feast gathers everyone in the Great Hall beneath floating candles and enchanted ceiling skis. House banners hang high overhead. It is during this feast that Harry and his classmates learn what is coming. Albus Dumbledore announces that Hogwarts will be hosting a legendary event this year, one that has not taken place for a long time, the Triwizard Tournament. It is a magical competition between 3 European wizarding schools. Hogwarts will welcome 2 visiting schools, and each will provide a champion. These 3 champions will face a series of difficult and dangerous tasks, designed to test their courage, skill, and resourcefulness. Dumbledore explains that because of the dangers involved, there is an age limit. Only students who are 17 or older, considered adults in the wizarding world, may enter. Names will be put forward by those who wish to compete, and the Goblet of Fire, a powerful enchanted cup, will choose the champions. For most students, including Harry, this immediately makes the tournament feel like something they will watch rather than join. The younger students are disappointed, but also secretly relieved. Older students, especially Fred and George, begin plotting ways to get around the age limit. There is another important introduction that night. The new defense against the dark arts teacher is Alistair Moody, often called Mad-Eye Moody. He is a retired Auror, a dark wizard catcher with a reputation for paranoia and toughness. He has a magical eye that whirls and focuses independently, seeing through things it should not. His manner is gruff and intense, but Dumbledore trusts him, and that is enough for most. Not long after, the visiting schools arrive. Beauxbaton's Academy of Magic arrives first, their students stepping out of a grand carriage pulled by flying horses. They move with a certain grace and elegance, led by their headmistress, Madame Maxime, who is impressively tall. Durmstrang Institute arrives next, emerging from a ghostly ship that surfaces from the depths of the Black Lake. Their students are sturdy and serious, their headmaster Igor Karkaroff intense and watchful. Among them is Victor Krum, the famous seeker Harry watched at the World Cup. With the visiting schools settled and the Goblet of Fire placed in a special chamber, the tournament begins to feel real. Students over 17 submit their names, each hopeful of being chosen. Those underage, including Harry, can only watch and speculate. The goblet is lit with a blue-white flame, and for several days it burns quietly, considering all the names placed within. Then comes the night when the champions are chosen. Everyone gathers in the Great Hall. The goblet flares bright blue, then changes to red as it selects each champion in turn. A charred piece of parchment shoots out, and Dumbledore catches it. The first name is for Durmstrang, Victor Krum. The second is for Beauxbatons, Fleur de Lacquer. The third is for Hogwarts, Cedric Diggory of Hufflepuff. Each chosen student walks to the front of the hall to applause and cheering. It seems everything is decided. 3 champions, 3 schools, as tradition demands. Then the goblet flares again. To everyone's shock, a 4th piece of parchment flies out. Dumbledore catches it, reads the name written there, and calls it aloud. Harry Potter. The Great Hall falls into stunned silence. Harry sits frozen. He did not put his name in. He is underage. He has no idea how this has happened. Yet hundreds of eyes turn to him, and he feels the weight of their disbelief and curiosity. Dumbledore insists he come forward. The rules are clear. The goblet's decision is binding. A champion cannot simply step aside. Harry walks to the front of the hall, feeling as if he has fallen into someone else's story. In the chamber where the champions gather, confusion reigns. The other champions, the visiting headmasters, and ministry officials all demand to know how Harry's name was selected. Some accuse him of cheating. Others insist it is impossible for someone so young to trick the Goblet of Fire. Dumbledore asks Harry directly if he put his name in or had an older student do it for him. Harry says no, and Dumbledore believes him. But belief does not translate easily into answers. Bartemius Crouch from the Ministry and Ludo Bagman, who is overseeing the tournament, agree on one point. The goblet has made its choice. Harry must compete. The magical contract is already in place. When Harry leaves the chamber, the mood in the school has shifted. Some students are impressed or envious. Many are angry, especially those who are older and were truly eligible. They think Harry has stolen a place that should have gone to someone else. Even Ron, usually Harry's closest ally, begins to doubt him. Ron suspects Harry has secretly found a way to enter and did not share it, which hurts him deeply. Hermione stands by Harry, but the tension between best friends is painful and confusing. For the first time in a long while, Harry feels isolated at Hogwarts. Classes continue, but everywhere he goes, Harry hears whispers. People wear badges supporting Cedric Diggory and mocking Harry. Rita Skeeter arrives at the school to report on the tournament and quickly takes an interest in Harry, twisting his words into dramatic, exaggerated stories. Her article paints him as unstable and attention-seeking, which only makes things worse. Meanwhile, the first task approaches. The champions are told almost nothing about it, only that it will test their courage and resourcefulness. Harry feels increasingly desperate. Unlike the older champions, he does not think of himself as skilled enough to survive something designed for grown students. Help comes from an unexpected corner. Hagrid invites Harry to a private meeting one evening and suggests he bring his invisibility cloak. Confused but curious, Harry agrees. Under the cloak, he follows Hagrid into the night and discovers a secret. There are dragons on the Hogwarts grounds. 4 massive dragons, each terrifying in its own way, are being kept in a secluded enclosure. The first task will involve facing them. Harry is horrified. Dragons are among the most dangerous magical creatures. He has no idea how he is supposed to survive, let alone succeed. Hagrid, proud and excited by the challenge, does not fully understand how overwhelming this seems to Harry. Back in the castle, Harry is caught under the cloak by Professor Moody. Instead of punishing him, Moody seems amused. Not long after, he hints strongly that Harry should play to his strengths. That suggestion leads Harry to a realization. His best skill at school is flying. If he can summon his firebolt broomstick during the task, he might be able to outfly the dragon. With Hermione's help, he practices a summoning charm over and over in hidden corners of the castle. The incantation Accio becomes his constant companion. He must master it if he wants any chance of surviving. The day of the first task arrives. The champions draw lots to see which dragon they will face, and in what order. Harry ends up with a Hungarian horntail, one of the most dangerous species. His job is to retrieve a golden egg guarded by the dragon. The stadium fills with students and teachers. The noise is deafening, the air buzzing with anticipation. From the waiting tent, Harry hears roars and gasps as other champions take their turns. Then, at last, it is his. He walks into the arena, heart pounding, face to snout, with a massive dragon chained to the ground, its eyes fixed on him, its tail lashing. He raises his wand and focuses harder than he ever has in his life. Accio firebolt. There is a long, breathless moment, then the sound of something whistling through the air. His broomstick streaks into the arena and into his hand. With a rush of relief, Harry kicks off from the ground and soars into the air. What follows is a wild, dangerous dance between boy and dragon. Harry uses his speed and agility to stay ahead of the horntail, dodging fire, diving and climbing above the stadium, drawing the dragon away from the egg. Finally, with a well-timed dive, he snatches the golden egg and escapes real harm, though not without a few close calls. The crowd erupts. Even those who doubted him cannot deny the skill and courage he has shown. The judges award points, and Harry, to his astonishment, scores very well. His success begins to shift opinions. Some students start to respect him again. Madame Maxime and Karkaroff seem somewhat grudging in their praise, but others are warmer. Most importantly, Ron comes to his senses. Seeing Harry face a dragon convinces him that no one would choose this danger for fun or attention. He realizes how unfair he has been and returns to Harry's side, sheepish and apologetic. Their friendship mends, and the familiar trio of Harry, Ron, and Hermione is restored. The first task is over, but the golden egg Harry has won is more than a trophy. It holds a clue to the second task, And that mystery is only just beginning. With the first task behind him, Harry might hope for peace, but the golden egg he has won refuses to cooperate. When he opens it in the common room, instead of music or words, it releases a horrible, wailing screech. The sound is so loud and unpleasant that everyone nearby demands he close it again. Whatever clue lies inside is buried in noise. Days stretch into weeks. Harry keeps pushing the problem aside. Classes are demanding, and the glow of success from the first task fades. Homework piles up. Teachers, especially Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape, show no mercy simply because he is a champion. In defense against the dark arts, Professor Moody teaches in his own intense style. He shows the unforgivable curses in a controlled lesson, demonstrating what they do on spiders. The killing curse, which leaves no mark on the body. The Cruciatus curse, which causes unbearable pain. The Imperious curse, which controls a person completely. It is a harsh lesson, but Moody insists that understanding dark magic is necessary if they are ever to defend themselves. Outside class, life at Hogwarts changes in more pleasant ways. Dumbledore announces that to celebrate the Triwizard Tournament, there will be a formal event on Christmas night, the Yule Ball. Older students will dance in the Great Hall, which will be transformed into a glittering ballroom. Younger students may attend if asked by someone in the older years. The news excites and terrifies many. For Harry, the idea of facing a dragon was somehow easier than the thought of asking someone to a dance. He and Ron struggle with the social side of growing up. Hermione, on the other hand, treats it as a normal part of life, though she is quieter than usual about her own plans. As Christmas approaches, the castle grows even more beautiful. Evergreen garlands adorn the staircases. The Great Hall glows with decorated trees and candles. Outside, the grounds lie under a layer of snow, the lake frozen at the edges, breath hanging in the air like smoke. Harry waits too long to ask the girl he likes. By the time he gathers the courage to consider asking Cho Chang, she already has a partner. He and Ron end up asking others in a last-minute rush, which leads to awkwardness and mismatched expectations. Hermione appears at the ball with Victor Krum, the famous seeker and Durmstrang champion. She looks completely different from her usual self, and many are surprised. Ron, in particular, reacts badly. Jealousy and confusion tangle his thoughts, and he lashes out. Hermione, who has waited a long time for him to see her properly, is hurt and angry. The ball itself is a mixture of beauty and discomfort. The Great Hall is transformed by magic into a winter wonderland, with shimmering ice like decorations and a dance floor. Students in dress robes, some elegant and some rather unfortunate, swirl to music played by a wizarding band. Professors watch from the sides. Conversations about school, Quidditch, and the tournament blend with laughter and occasional arguments. Late into the evening, tensions between Ron and Hermione erupt. They argue about Krum, about who should have asked whom, about courage of a different kind than facing dragons. Harry, caught between them, feels the familiar ache of watching his friends struggle with feelings they can barely name. Through all of this, the golden egg remains unsolved. After the holidays, Cedric Diggory, who has no reason to help Harry, approaches him with a suggestion. Cedric reminds Harry that Harry warned him about the dragons before the first task. Now, Cedric repays the kindness with a hint. Take a bath with the egg, he says. Think of it as a way to hear the clue differently. Harry is puzzled but curious. One night, using a note from Professor McGonagall that gives him access to the prefect's bathroom as a champion, he slips away with his invisibility cloak and the egg. The bathroom is luxurious, with a vast sunken tub and a forest of taps producing different types of foamy water. Alone, surrounded by steam and quiet, Harry climbs into the warm bath and submerges the egg. Underwater, the scream changes. Instead of a shriek, he hears a strange, echoing song. The words are distorted by water, but just clear enough to carry meaning. The lyrics speak of voices beneath the lake, of something important that will be taken, of a time limit, and of the need to search below the surface to retrieve what has been lost. When he surfaces, Harry understands at least part of the second task. Something dear to him will be taken and hidden in the depths of the Black Lake. He will be given only a set amount of time to recover it. How he will breathe underwater, or what exactly will be taken, remains unclear. The mystery has changed shape, but it is no longer a meaningless scream. The days before the second task are filled with a new kind of worry. Harry now knows he must go underwater for a long time, but he has no safe way to do it. He researches spells and potions, looking for solutions. Hermione and Ron help where they can, but nothing seems quite right. Time slips away, and anxiety climbs. Meanwhile, other threads of the school year grow darker. Rita Skeeter continues to publish articles in the Daily Prophet, twisting facts into dramatic stories. Her pieces about Harry, Hagrid, and even Hermione cause real harm. She reveals that Hagrid is part giant, using that information to stir prejudice and fear. Hagrid, devastated, withdraws from teaching for a time, convinced that the world will never accept him. Dumbledore gently encourages Hagrid to return, reminding him that he is valued, and that prejudice must not be allowed to win. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stand by Hagrid as well, visiting his cabin and showing him that he is not alone. The Ministry remains anxious about the events at the World Cup and the Dark Mark. Bartemius Crouch, once strict and powerful, begins to behave erratically. He misses key events, sends strange messages, and appears at times disoriented. On one occasion, Harry sees his name on the Marauders' map in a place he should not be, only for the adults to dismiss the sighting as a mistake. All of this adds to the feeling that something is out of balance at Hogwarts, that unseen forces are at work. Then the morning of the second task arrives. Harry still has no workable plan. Exhausted and desperate, he heads down to the lake with the other champions, heart heavy. The stands are full again. Students huddle in cloaks, their breath steaming. Judges sit on a raised platform. The surface of the lake is gray and cold. At the very last moment, help arrives. Dobby, the house elf, who has grown deeply loyal to Harry, appears with a handful of a magical plant called gillyweed. Dobby has learned about the second task by listening in the right place at the right time. He presses the gillyweed into Harry's hands and urges him to eat it, trusting Dobby's earnest eyes and having no other choice. Harry chews the plant just before the signal to begin. The change is immediate. His neck tingles and slits open along the sides, forming gills. His fingers and toes lengthen into webbed shapes. Breathing air feels wrong, but when he dives into the water, he can draw it into his lungs easily. The world beneath the lake is strange and murky. Shadows move in the distance. Weeds sway like ghostly banners. Harry swims deeper, guided by the haunting echo of the Clue song and by his own determination. He encounters Grindylows, the grasping creatures who lurk in dark water, and pushes past them. Finally, he finds an underwater village of merpeople, their gray skin and sharp features illuminated by pale light. Tied among them are 4 figures: Ron, Hermione, Cho Chang, and a small girl Harry recognizes as Fleur de Lacquer's younger sister, Gabrielle. Each champion, it seems, has had someone precious taken. Harry realizes that he is meant to rescue only one. The others are for the other champions. Cedric arrives and frees Cho. Crumb appears in a partly transformed shark-like form and releases Hermione. Fleur does not arrive. Harry waits as long as he dares, watching the merpeople, who make it clear that they will not intervene. When it seems Fleur is not coming, he refuses to leave Gabrielle behind. He uses his wand to cut both Ron and Gabrielle loose and struggles to bring them back to the surface. The time limit is nearly up. Gillyweed's effects begin to fade as he nears the shore, and every kick grows more difficult. At last, he breaks through the surface, gasping, hauling Ron and Gabrielle into the air. On shore, judges, teachers, and students rush forward. Fleur, who failed to reach the hostages, is overwhelmed with relief when she sees her sister safe. She embraces Harry and thanks him again and again. Ron, shivering and bewildered, can hardly believe he was used as bait. When scores are awarded, Harry does not receive the highest marks for speed. However, he is given extra points for moral judgment, for choosing to save more than he was required to. In the end, he ties for first place overall with Cedric. The second task is over, but the unease at Hogwarts is not. Strange things continue to happen. Harry has more dreams connected to Voldemort. He experiences moments of pain in his scar that come without warning. One night, he enters Dumbledore's office and finds Professor Trelawney in distress over a prediction she made years before, hinting at deeper secrets about Harry's connection to the Dark Wizard. Bartemius Crouch once again behaves oddly. At one point, Harry encounters him in the forest near the school. Crouch seems confused, muttering to himself about his son, about rules, about Voldemort. He begs to see Dumbledore, but vanishes before help can be brought. Later, news arrives that Crouch is missing. The sense of gathering storm is impossible to ignore. As the final task approaches, Hogwarts prepares the Quidditch pitch for something entirely different. Where there were once stands and open sky, there now grows a towering maze of hedges. The third task will test the champion's ability to navigate danger and confusion, to make choices under pressure, and to reach the Triwizard Cup at the center. In the weeks leading up to the task, the champions receive training in advanced defensive magic. Moody puts them through intense practice sessions. Spells to stun, to shield, and to counter curses become crucial. Harry grows stronger and more confident with his wand. At the same time, those who care about him gather close. Mrs. Weasley and Bill Weasley come to Hogwarts to watch the final task. For Harry, seeing Mrs. Weasley feels like having a motherly presence again. Her warmth and worry surround him like a blanket. She, Ron, Hermione, and Harry spend time together before the task, giving him a feeling of belonging that steadies his nerves. At last, the evening of the third task arrives. The champions stand at the entrance to the maze as the sun sinks and shadows lengthen. The stands are full of students, staff, and visitors. The hedges loom high, their leaves rustling in a wind that does not quite reach the paths inside. The rules are simple. The Triwizard Cup waits at the center. The first champion to reach it will win the tournament. There will be obstacles along the way, some creatures, some spells, some enchantments that twist the senses. At the signal, the champions enter at intervals. Cedric and Harry, tied on points, go first, followed by Crumb and Fleur. Inside, the maze becomes its own world. The hedges block sound and light from outside. Paths fork and twist. At some points, the way seems clear. At others, it closes without warning. Strange creatures lurk in the darkness, and spells lie in wait to disorient or attack. Harry faces creatures like blast-ended Scroots and Boggarts. He fights off enchanted obstacles and uses the spells he has practiced to shield himself. More unsettling than the creatures is the feeling of being watched by the maze itself, as if it resents his progress. At one point, Harry comes upon Fleur lying unconscious, apparently attacked and unable to continue. Later, he finds Crumb acting strangely, aiming a curse at Cedric. He stuns Crumb, realizing that something has driven him to attack other champions. This hints at outside influence, at the imperious curse used somewhere in the darkness. As he moves deeper, Harry encounters Cedric multiple times. In some spots, Cedric is closer to the cup. In others, Harry is. They each save the other from danger at different moments, pulling one another away from traps or spells that could have ended the journey. Their rivalry gives way to shared respect. Finally, they reach a clearing where the cup stands in the center, glowing softly. They argue briefly about who should take it. Cedric insists Harry has helped him too much to be denied. Harry insists Cedric reached it fair and square as well. They both know the tournament was meant to have only one victor. But in this moment, fairness matters more than tradition. They agree to take it together. On the count of 3, they each grab a handle of the Triwizard Cup. Instead of a triumphant fanfare, the world spins. The cup is a portkey, a magical object that transports anyone touching it to a specific location. In an instant, the maze, the stands, and Hogwarts vanish. Harry and Cedric land in a dark, cold graveyard. The air smells of damp earth and neglect. Tilted gravestones surround them. One stone bears a familiar surname, Riddle. A small, twisted figure approaches, carrying something that looks like a bundle. Events move with terrifying speed. A high voice commands. A flash of green light strikes. Cedric falls, lifeless, his eyes open, gone in a heartbeat. Harry is too shocked even to scream at first. Then he is bound and dragged to a large headstone, tied there as part of a ritual he barely understands. The bundle the servant carried is something pitiful and terrifying. A weakened, unnatural form that speaks with Voldemort's voice. An ancient, cruel ceremony unfolds. The bones of Voldemort's father taken from the grave. Flesh of the servant offered willingly in a grim act of devotion. Blood of the enemy taken from Harry's arm. The potion bubbles, glows, and transforms. From the cauldron rises Voldemort restored to body, tall and thin, with pale skin, red eyes, and snake-like features. He has returned, no longer a shadow, but a living, walking dark wizard. He summons his followers, the Death Eaters, who appear out of the night, masked and hooded. Many had claimed to have renounced him. They now stand cowed and eager under his gaze as he names them and speaks of betrayal, loyalty, and future plans. Then he turns back to Harry. He wants more than victory. He wants to prove that he can defeat the boy who has defied him, not through trickery, but in open combat. He removes Harry's bonds and returns his wand, confident that he cannot lose. What follows is a duel that should have been one-sided. Voldemort casts the killing curse. Harry counters with a disarming spell. The twin cores of their wands, connected by the same magical source, react in an extraordinary way. A beam of light joins the wands, neither spell fully overcoming the other. Around them, a golden cage of light forms. Shadows of Voldemort's previous victims, echoes drawn from his wand, appear in the space between them. Among them are Cedric, Bertha Jorkins, and Harry's parents, Lily and James. They speak to Harry, encouraging him, telling him what he must do. Their presence gives him a strength that has nothing to do with spells or technique. In a final, desperate effort, Harry breaks the connection, runs to Cedric's body, summons the Triwizard Cup with a spell, and clings to it. The portkey activates once more. Harry and Cedric return to Hogwarts in a burst of magic. They land on the ground near the stands where the crowd waits for the triumphant conclusion of the tournament. For a moment, no one understands what they are seeing. Then the shouting starts. Cedric's body lies still on the grass. Harry, shaking and bloodied, clutches the cup and tries to speak. He says that Voldemort has returned, that Cedric was murdered. His words are barely coherent through the shock and grief. Dumbledore moves quickly, ordering that Harry be taken away from the crowd and Cedric be attended to. The judges, teachers, and ministry officials react with a mixture of horror, confusion, and disbelief. Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic, refuses to accept what Harry says. The idea that Voldemort has returned is too terrible and too dangerous for his position. He begins, from this moment, to choose denial over truth. Dumbledore, however, believes Harry at once. He takes charge, sending urgent instructions to trusted allies. He tells Professor McGonagall to bring certain people together. He tells Snape to do something unspoken, but clearly important, hinting at a complex web of loyalties older than the students know. Before any of this can unfold fully, another danger emerges. Harry is taken to Professor Moody's office. Moody seems eager, almost hungry, to hear everything Harry experienced in the graveyard. He pushes for details, asks about Voldemort's body, the Death Eaters, the duel. As Harry speaks, some of Moody's comments start to feel off. He knows too much about how the cup became a portkey, about what Voldemort wanted. He almost congratulates Harry on fulfilling a plan, rather than simply surviving a disaster. Slowly, horribly, Harry realizes that the teacher who has been guiding and protecting him all year has been guiding him along a path chosen by someone else. Moody raises his wand. Before he can act, the door bursts open. Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape storm the room. They stun Moody, disarm him, and prevent whatever he intended to do to Harry. What follows is a revelation that changes everything the school thought it knew. The man they have known as Alistair Moody all year is not Moody at all. With the use of a truth potion and certain spells, Dumbledore reveals that the real Moody has been imprisoned in a magical trunk. The Moody at Hogwarts has been an imposter, using Polyjuice potion to steal his appearance. The imposter is Barty Crouch Jr., the son of Bartemius Crouch, long thought dead in Azkaban. Under the influence of Veritaserum, Crouch Jr. explains how he escaped. His mother, dying and desperate, persuaded Crouch Sr. to swap their son with herself in prison using Polyjuice potion. She took his place and died there, while he returned home under his father's control. For years, he was kept hidden, living under the Imperious curse. Then the call of Voldemort, weak but growing, reached him through a faithful servant, and he broke free. He murdered his father, manipulated events at the Quidditch World Cup, and came to Hogwarts disguised as Moody. It was he who put Harry's name into the Goblet of Fire under a false school, ensuring he would be chosen. It was he who subtly steered Harry through each task, guiding him toward the Portkey Cup and the graveyard where Voldemort waited. Everything, from the dragons to the maze, was bent around the shape of that plan. Dumbledore listens grimly, drawing out every detail. The truth confirms what Harry experienced and ties together the odd behavior of Crouch Sr., the strange attacks, and the sense of an unseen hand. Before this, confession can be used to warn the wider wizarding world. Fudge intervenes. Frightened by the implications, he brings a Dementor for security. The Dementor performs its terrible kiss on Crouch Jr., consuming his soul and leaving him in a state worse than death. The living witness to Voldemort's plan and return is silenced. Fudge refuses to believe Dumbledore or Harry. He insists that this is all a plot to unseat him, that talk of Voldemort is exaggeration or madness. He fears panic more than he fears the truth. Dumbledore understands that a line has been drawn. He knows Voldemort has returned. He knows the Ministry will not help, at least not yet. Quietly, but firmly, he begins to prepare for a new war. He sends messages to old allies, including some abroad. He speaks with Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, who remains in hiding, but is determined to stand with them. He plans to reassemble a group that once resisted Voldemort, an order of witches and wizards who will fight again. The mood at Hogwarts in the days after the third task is heavy with grief. Cedric's death hangs over everything. His house, Hufflepuff, is devastated. His parents are summoned to the school to collect their son's body, and the sight of their sorrow is unbearable. At the leaving feast, Dumbledore Dumbledore does not pretend that Cedric died by accident. He tells the entire school the truth. Cedric was murdered by Voldemort. He asks them to remember Cedric as the kind and fair person he was, a boy who would never have considered hurting another student for glory. He urges the students to unite across houses and national lines, reminding them that old divisions will only make it easier for dark powers to rise. The visiting schools prepare to depart. Fleur de Lacre says goodbye, still grateful to Harry for saving her sister. Victor Crumb parts from Hermione with complicated feelings, but also respect. The students of Beauxbatons and Durmstrang return to their own lives, carrying with them the memory of a tournament that ended in tragedy instead of celebration. Harry spends his final hours at Hogwarts that year in the hospital wing, recovering physically, though his mind is heavy with images of Cedric and the graveyard. Dumbledore speaks to him honestly about pain and loss, about the choice to stand against darkness, even when the cost is high. Before Harry leaves, he receives the Triwizard winnings, a large sum of gold that he cannot bear to keep. To him, the money is tied to Cedric's death, so he does something that will shape the future in a quieter way. He gives the money to Fred and George Weasley, telling them to use it to open the joke shop they dream about. He does not want them to thank him loudly or draw attention to the gift. He simply wants something good, something full of laughter, to come from a year filled with fear and sorrow. On the train ride back to London, Harry, Ron, and Hermione sit together, closer than ever. They know the world has changed. Voldemort lives again in a restored body. The Ministry refuses to face this truth. Dumbledore is moving in one direction, Fudge in another. Harry returns to the Dursleys at the end of term, as he always does. But he is not the same boy who left. He carries the memory of Cedric, the echo of his parents' voices, and the knowledge that a great darkness has risen. Yet, he also carries proof that he is not alone. Dumbledore, Sirius, the Weasleys, Hermione, and many others stand beside him in spirit. The year of the Triwizard Tournament has taken much from Harry. Safety, innocence, the illusion that past wars are truly over. In exchange, it has given him a clearer understanding of the path ahead. As he steps once more into the ordinary world of Privet Drive, he knows that somewhere beyond those neat lawns and closed curtains, the wizarding world is bracing itself. A storm is coming, and when it breaks, Harry will be ready to stand in it.